that label and title, because it's very debilitating, because it takes away all your credibility. If I started twitching and acting all crazy, or someone said, y'all wouldn't listen to Brother Sharif, it's hard for me to get anyone to listen to me now. Imagine if I started acting a little funny, or someone had some kind of document saying I'm mentally ill. All my credibility will go out the window, right? So that's how debilitating that stigma and that stereotype is. That's how it is. And still to this day, they're putting labels and titles on us that don't exist and is unjustified, or over-medicating us. I could get into that. The over-medication of our people in these facilities. Our boys in the school system being over-medicated, and it's destroying them when it don't need to be. My thing is, if you're not a danger to yourself or someone else, it's ways to get around some of these things, especially with our children. Medicating children at 6 years old, 5 years old. I'm a mobile therapist. I go to schools, daycares, wherever children are. And eventually I'll get into it with adults, but I'm working on the youth now. Children 4 and 5 years old on psychotropic medication. Now again, if you are a danger to yourself or someone else, then maybe you might need a pill to calm you down. But America is the most heavily medicated country on this planet. Did you know the word pharmacy is a Greek word that means sorcery and poison? Yeah, look it up. Pharmacy, which comes from the root word Greek pharmaka, is a Greek word that means sorcery, magic, and poison. CVS pharmacy, Walgreens pharmacy, Walgreen pharmacy. It's a Greek word that means sorcery and poison. Look it up for yourself. So they're telling you what they're doing. Yes. Oh, Brother Sharif said I shouldn't go to the pharmacy and get my medicine. I ain't saying that. I'm just telling you what the word pharmacy means. It's a Greek word that means sorcery and poison. Right? So I just gave you a brief history of how we got labeled with these words, these titles, these stigmas, these stereotypes. And look those names up. It's right in the books. Dr. Samuel Morton, he was collecting skulls, and he said because of our different skull structure that it proves that we were mentally ill and less intelligent. That was Dr. Samuel Morton. After him, I want you to look up Dr. Joshua Knott. He had a book called Types of Mankind, just giving a quick review for people coming in. And he said that we were less intelligent and inferior. Dr. Samuel Cartwright. And Dr. Samuel Cartwright, if you get a documentary called Goodbye Uncle Tom, I think my brother Akiba is watching. I've showed this many a times. It's a documentary out there called Goodbye Uncle Tom, and it is the real deal what happened on the slave plantation. It makes Roots look like a joke. It shows what really happened on the slave plantation. And this Dr. Samuel Cartwright, who said we had this mental illness called drapetomania, he's in that movie, in that documentary. It's called Goodbye Uncle Tom. It's so real, it's so raw, it's so volatile that they tried to keep it from the general public. It actually came out in the early 70s before Roots. And they said if we let this get out to the general public, these niggas will start rioting. So they hid it from the general public, and it's even hard to get now. It's called Goodbye Uncle Tom, and it shows what really happened. The sex farms, the set up prostitution with little girls on the plantation. It shows all that, how they used to pay black men, dress them up in fancy suits and ties, and would have little girls, have them supervising little girls on the plantation. And white men who wanted boys and girls would come in and say, yeah, I want that one, I want that one. And they had to pay a fee to get these little boys and girls. Dr. Samuel Cartwright is in that documentary. The same one that said we got the mental illness drapetomania. Oh, Brother Sharif, you're talking about all this stuff back in the 1840s and 50s. Well, it's the same thing now. White people think that we are crazy. Just the other day, I took my boys to the doctor to get a physical in this white neighborhood because I don't live too far from there, and that's where I went to get them their physical. We walk in. My boys, by the way, are very well behaved and disciplined, not because they're my boys, but because they have discipline because of the things I do with them at home. They're very well behaved and disciplined. They go in there and sit down, about two white ladies, older white ladies standing there to show you how these stereotypes and these stigmas of us being crazy, some white people, a lot of white people have it, and they don't even realize they're doing it. But it's brainwashing. It's brainwashing. So we in there. As soon as we sit down, I'm waiting for them to call my boys up. As soon as we sit down, I say to my boys, I want you to pick up that newspaper. I want you to pick out an article in that newspaper. And within 5 minutes, I want you to tell me what you read without looking at the newspaper. Go. The boys pick it up. No back talk, no sign of, oh man, I'm not playing on their cell phone. And they start reading. They in that newspaper. You would have thought that white lady saw a damn ghost. She couldn't believe I'm a counselor. I'm a therapist. I can read people. You would have thought she saw a ghost. And if I had that mental telepathy like they used to have on the Super Friends, remember that? If I had mental telepathy and if I could read what was on her mind, she was probably like, I can't believe these two little Negro boys walked in here. They don't got their pants sagging. They ain't screaming, hollering, cursing, and running around all over the place. And they're reading? What in the heck is going on here? And I was looking at her. I didn't say nothing. I said, you damn right. This ain't no ordinary black family that you see running around out here. All praises due to God. This is what they think of us. Because a lot of those stereotypes, it goes way back. Have you ever heard of a doctor by the name of Dr. James Watson? This ain't no one back in the 1840s and 30s like I told you, even though that's still relevant. Look him up. I believe this demon is still alive. Dr. James Watson won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1978, and he is a pioneer and a founding father of DNA molecular structure. I'm going to say it again. His name is Dr. James Watson. I believe the demon is still alive. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1978, and he is a pioneer for DNA molecular structure. So when you got that show, The First 48, and they talk about how they get the DNA and the blood and all that, he's responsible for the pioneering the molecular structure. Do you know this man said that blacks are inferior to whites? And Africa is an inferior country to all other countries and continents on this earth. And he also said when blacks, especially youths, take IQ tests, they always fail them, and in the future they always going to fail them. That's what he said. This Dr. James Watson. Our sister Naira Salam sister said, what are your thoughts on vaccines? Okay, I'll get to that, sis. I'll give a quick little commentary on that. Not no expert or anything on it, but know a little something on it. Yes, so Dr. James Watson, he made this statement back in 2001, and he won the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize, really. And he said blacks are inferior. Africa's an inferior continent, and he said if blacks take IQ tests, they always fail them. They always have failed them, and they're going to keep failing them. Dr. James Watson. This ain't nothing new. This ain't nothing new. I forget this other demon's name, but I shouldn't have brought him up if I forgot his name. But he is a world-renowned historian. I had to look up his name. And he said that Africa is a dark country. It's a dark country with no history there, and it's barbaric. He is a world-renowned historian. I got to get his name. Is it Hugh Trevorroper? I believe that's his name. Hugh Trevorroper, a world-renowned historian, said that Africa is a dark continent. He just lived back in early 2000s. He passed away. I'm really sad about that. And he said Africa is a dark continent with no history, and it's barbaric. And he is a world-renowned historian. See? going on with that stigma and that stereotype. So this is where it came from, family, about us being mentally ill, insane, out of our minds, crazy. This is what you call scientific racism. Scientific racism through medicine. Well, not through medicine, but through medical language and terminology, putting mental illness stigmas on us that don't even exist, like drapetomania from Dr. Samuel Cartwright. Please look him up. He's the worst one of them all, and he's in that documentary that I advise you to get while you can get it, called Goodbye Uncle Tom. The real deal would happen on the slave plantation. The forced prostitution, the forced incest, making grandfathers sleep with their granddaughters, making fathers sleep with their daughters and their sons. And we wonder why we have a deep, dark secret of molestation and rape in the black community. Where did it come from? Did we come from Africa practicing that and doing that? It happened on the plantation, which causes mental illness. Show me, and I ain't saying it ain't never happened, but show me how we had a practice of daughters sleeping with their fathers, fathers sleeping with their daughters, grandfathers sleeping with their granddaughters. Show me that we had a normal practice of doing that in Africa. Where did that sickness and illness come from? Get the documentary, Goodbye Uncle Tom, and it will show you where it came from. And descendants of white slave masters are the ones, they were Italian, who made the documentary. This ain't something made up by some black power or some Hotep or Minister Farrakhan or some Muslim. These are white men who made this, and it came out before Roots. And they said this documentary is so volatile and so real that we have to keep this from the general public. And they came out with a watered down version of what happened during slavery via the transatlantic slave trade with Roots. You like a watered down? Hell, Roots made me mad. Well, if Roots makes you mad, you better take a cold shower and drink some cold water watching Goodbye Uncle Tom. And they caused mental illness and sickness with their sick practices on that slave plantation via the documentary Goodbye Uncle Tom. I think I've said enough. Look up those names. I'll say them one more time. Oh, I got to answer the sister's question. I'm going to get right to you, sis, if you're still there. Dr. Samuel Morton, he collected skulls. And he said we were, because of our skull structure, said we were less intelligent. After him, and there's many others, I'm just giving you the main ones. Dr. Joshua Knox, in the 1840s, came out with a book called Types of Mankind. And he said we were less intelligent because of our skull and because of ligaments in our legs. He said because the ligaments were longer in our legs, he said that meant we were submissive knee benders. That was Dr. Joshua Knott in the 1840s. And he came out with the book Types of Mankind. And he was a student of Dr. Samuel Morton, who used to study skulls. And he had a book called Types of Skulls. And he said blacks, because of our skull structure, we were less intelligent. After him in the 1850s, Dr. Samuel Cartwright came out with a book called The Physical Peculiarities of the Negro Race, and he came out and made up a mental illness called drapetomania. It's still in the DSM. The DSM is a diagnostic manual of all mental illnesses. They're on DSM-5 now. Bipolar, ADHD, eating disorders, schizophrenia, any mental illness you can think of is in the DSM. All counselors and therapists have a DSM. And a parent should have it, because if they try to say your child has ADHD or something, they're going to go right to that book. They're not going to go to Psalms. They're not going to go to a surah in the Quran. They're going to go to the DSM and say, yeah, your child has this. Or if you go see a counselor or a therapist or a psychiatrist and you say you're having some mental issues, they're not going to go tell you to read no Bible verse. They're going to go right to that DSM. So this drapetomania that this Dr. Samuel Cartwright made up, and he said blacks had the propensity to break their master's